Hey, what's up guys, Sam here, and today we're going out for another POV street photography session. This time we're going out at night, and today, similar setup, 1DX Mark III. I wanted to try something a little bit different, so I took a 24mm f1.4 versus my normal setup, which is a 35mm. And because we were going out at night, I wanted to try something a little bit more different. And specifically what I mean is using a black pro mist filter, or essentially it's a diffusion filter by Tiffin. I was using a quarter power. So if you don't know what a black pro mist filter is, it's essentially a diffusion filter, and it looks something like this. It looks sort of like a UV filter, but you can see there's a little bit of haze. It's less contrasty. If I put over here, you probably can't tell the difference too much. You can sort of see that my skin sort of smoothens out a little bit, right? Everything sort of like smoothens out, but it will show more effect on highlights actually in any sort of light source. It kind of like bloom the light source out, or make it a little bit more hazy, make the edges a little bit more softer. I'm not so sure exactly specifically what I was looking for. I just wanted to see how it would fit in my style of street photography. And I think before we go into a discussion, let's head to the streets, and I'll see you back here. Oof, 8 years. No, 24.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, today I...
After that week, right, next week we came back, right? Yeah, the same time we had.
Yeah, just cross it.
Oh.
6 or more. Wow.
During my two, because I have to enter and exit,
Yeah.
during my 2 times I didn't see any
Didn't kena lah.
tests, yeah,
Okay.
didn't see anything being done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's scary. That is insane.
Yeah, when all the craziness is over, should go and visit. It's
Yeah,
a very different
I
place.
wanted to go. Because I was there at Sabah. I was in Sabah at...
They all
Wow.
Oh yeah?
So yeah, welcome back. So as you can tell from the photos, you can clearly see that a lot of the highlights were bloomed out, and obviously that's the most distinctive feature of shooting with the Black Pro Mist. But there are a few things that I really liked and disliked about shooting, and I think I'm going to talk about what I disliked first. And number one is that if you're shooting in like evening light, full on, just straight up normal daylight, I think the pictures kind of look terrible. It's a little bit too stylized for me, and if I was going to shoot out in the day, I probably wouldn't shoot with a 1/4, I'd probably shoot with a 1/8, mainly because the look is a little bit too specific for my kinds of shoot, especially in the daylight. So one thing I really enjoyed shooting with this filter at night was really how the highlights were kind of like made it a lot hazier. It gave this very atmospheric look that I sort of enjoy, especially when you're shooting in a place where it has a lot of light. And a few more subtle things that I think is more important in this filter, rather than trying to flat out, trying to bloom out everything or make everything very hazy. It was really prevalent in this specific shot right here of this man smoking or going to smoke. If you see on his pants, because the headlights were really harsh, straight, it was a key light for him. And I think if I didn't have the diffusion filter on, the highlights would be a lot more harsher, and I think it will result in a completely different kind of image, because as you know, diffusion filters would not only bloom out the highlights, but it will lift the shadows, lift the blacks, and decrease the contrast overall. And I think this helped add to the photo very subtly. It's not something that you will notice straight away, but I did notice it when I was editing, because something that's very common when you're shooting or when you're editing street photos in really harsh light, it will be very hard to balance out your shadows and your highlights, because the highlights are softened and bloomed out using the diffusion filter. You can sort of like match your shadows a little bit better, and this results in something that's a little bit more, in my opinion, looks a lot more like film, something that was shot on film, because as you know, film has a huge latitude. It has much more smoother blacks, I think, much more milkier blacks, I think, if I were to describe it, and highlights are a lot smoother, or highlights are a lot more softer and nicer to look at, and that's what I think this diffusion filter really helps out. And I think that is the main reason why you would be using something like this versus no filter. It's not so much to get, yes, of course you can get that very stylized look, but I find that it's the subtle things that you can add to your image that make it a little bit more towards the look that you want. Because you know, I love shooting film, but unfortunately during these times it's a bit hard to shoot film all the time. I think using a diffusion filter just helps with that highlight roll off that I personally really like when I'm shooting film. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If this helped you, I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe. It really helps the channel out a lot. It really helps me do this kind of videos. If you have any questions, drop me a message, drop me a comment, or follow me on Instagram here and here. You can always ask me there. I try to answer as many questions as I possibly can. I really appreciate everybody who's constantly tuning in. Thank you so much once again, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next one.